I sat in Dr. Patterson's office on a Tuesday morning, watching her face shift from professional concern to something closer to alarm as she studied my blood work. My hands wouldn't stop trembling, and it had nothing to do with whatever illness was slowly destroying me from the inside out. "Dorothy, I need you to be completely honest with me," she said, setting down the papers and leaning forward. "Have you been taking any medications that weren't prescribed to you? Any supplements? Anything at all that might explain these levels?" I shook my head, my silver hair brushing against my shoulders. At 69 years old, I'd been healthy my entire life. I'd buried my first husband, Thomas, 5 years ago after 43 years of marriage, and I'd thought I was done with doctors' offices and medical emergencies. Then I met Robert at a grief support group, and for a brief, beautiful time, I thought life was giving me a second chance at happiness. Now, looking at Dr. Patterson's concerned expression, I wondered if that second chance was about to kill me. "Dorothy, your potassium levels are dangerously elevated. Your kidney function is declining rapidly. You're showing signs of digitalis toxicity." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "This pattern isn't consistent with natural illness or even with the medications you're currently taking. It looks like you're being exposed to something you shouldn't be." The word she didn't say hung in the air between us like smoke. Poisoned. Someone was poisoning me. I thought about the people who had access to my food, my drinks, my medicine cabinet. My new husband, Robert, who'd been nothing but kind and attentive during our 3-year marriage. His son, Marcus, and daughter-in-law, Jennifer, who'd moved into our guest house 6 months ago after Marcus lost his job in tech. My best friend, Claire, who still had her key from the days after Thomas died when she'd check on me daily. The list was impossibly short, and every name on it made my heart hurt. "I don't understand," I whispered. "I take my blood pressure medication every morning with breakfast. That's it. Robert makes me coffee, I have toast, I take my pill. That's been my routine for 3 years." Dr. Patterson's expression shifted again, and I recognized it this time. Pity. She'd seen this before. "I want you to stop taking any medication immediately. Don't drink or eat anything you didn't prepare yourself. And Dorothy?" She reached across the desk and took my hand. "I want you to consider whether you feel safe at home." The drive back to my house in the hills above Santa Barbara felt like it took hours instead of 20 minutes. The coastal views that usually calmed me just made me feel more isolated, more vulnerable. Robert's Mercedes was in the driveway when I pulled in, and I could see Marcus's beat-up Honda parked by the guest house. My beautiful Spanish-style home, with its terracotta roof and bougainvillea climbing the walls, had never felt less like a sanctuary. Robert was in the kitchen when I came in, and my heart did its usual flutter at seeing him. He looked distinguished at 71, with his silver beard and reading glasses perched on his nose as he studied something on his iPad. He'd made me fall in love with his gentle nature, his intellectual curiosity, his willingness to talk about grief and loss in a way that felt healing rather than painful. "How was the doctor?" he asked, looking up with genuine concern. "Did she figure out what's causing the fatigue?" I'd been feeling exhausted for months now. Dizzy spells, nausea, weakness in my legs that made climbing stairs feel like mountaineering. Robert had been worried, constantly suggesting I see specialists, pushing me to take better care of myself. Or had he been checking to make sure his plan was working? "She wants to run more tests," I lied, setting my purse on the counter. "Said it might be my thyroid." I watched his face for any flicker of guilt, any sign of nervousness. Nothing. He just nodded sympathetically and asked if I wanted tea. "I'll make it myself," I said quickly. Too quickly. His eyebrows rose. "Dorothy, you look exhausted. Let me take care of you." "I'm fine," I insisted, moving to the kettle. "You should go check on Marcus and Jennifer. I thought I heard their door slam earlier." After he left, I stood at the kitchen sink and cried. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. Not again. Not after finally finding happiness after Thomas. But Dr. Patterson's words kept echoing in my mind. Digitalis toxicity. Someone was giving me something that was mimicking or amplifying my heart medication. Someone wanted me sick, or worse. That night, I pretended to take my blood pressure pill, palming it instead and flushing it later. I ate dinner that Robert prepared, but I pushed the food around my plate more than I ate it, claiming the nausea was worse. I watched him, watched Marcus and Jennifer when they joined us for dessert, watched for any sign of guilt or satisfaction or nervousness. Jennifer seemed distracted, scrolling through her phone while making comments about needing to find a job soon. Marcus was quieter than usual, his jaw tight with stress. Robert was attentive, almost hovering, asking me repeatedly if I needed anything, if I should go to bed early, if he should call the doctor. After they left, Robert helped me upstairs, his hand gentle on my elbow. "I'm worried about you," he murmured as he tucked me into bed. "You're getting so thin, so frail." Frail. The word sent ice through my veins. I'd never been frail in my life. I'd hiked, played tennis, traveled the world with Thomas. Now I could barely make it up a flight of stairs without trembling. The next morning, I called Claire. She arrived within an hour, letting herself in through the back door while Robert was out getting groceries. Marcus and Jennifer's car was gone too, probably at another job interview that wouldn't pan out. Claire found me in the sunroom, still in my bathrobe, supposedly reading but really just staring at the ocean view and trying not to panic. "Tell me everything," she demanded, settling into the chair across from me. Claire had been a nurse for 40 years before retiring, and she'd seen enough in her career to have a healthy skepticism about human nature. I told her about the blood work, about Dr. Patterson's concerns, about the digitalis toxicity. Claire's face went through the same progression of expressions I'd seen in my doctor's office, settling on a grim determination. "Show me your medications," she said. We went to my bathroom, and Claire examined every bottle in my medicine cabinet with the methodical precision of someone who'd spent decades checking medications. She picked up my blood pressure medication, a beta blocker I'd been taking for 5 years, and frowned. "When did you last refill this?" 2 weeks ago." "Why?" "These pills look different." She held one up to the light. "The markings are slightly off. And Dorothy, this bottle says 30 pills, but there are at least 40 in here." My legs went weak. I sat down hard on the closed toilet seat. "Someone's been tampering with your medication," Claire said, her voice shaking with anger. "They're adding something, probably mixing in digitalis or digoxin tablets. That would explain everything. The elevated potassium, the declining kidney function, the cardiac symptoms. But who would do that? Robert's been nothing but loving. Marcus and Jennifer are stressed about money, but they're family. They wouldn't. Dorothy, you're worth $3 million. Your life insurance alone is $500,000. And you told me you redid your will after marrying Robert, leaving everything 50-50 between him and Thomas's kids." She was right. After Thomas died, I'd inherited everything. His life insurance, his retirement accounts, our home which had appreciated to over $2 million in value, investments we'd made together. I'd been comfortable, secure. When I married Robert, I'd updated my will to be fair. Half to him, half to my stepchildren from my first marriage who lived back east and rarely visited. But Robert has his own money, his pension, his retirement accounts. He doesn't need mine. "Does he?" Claire asked pointedly. "Or did you just assume he did? Have you ever actually seen his financial statements?" I realized, with growing horror, that I hadn't. Robert had been the one to suggest we keep our finances separate, that we were both established adults who didn't need to complicate things by merging accounts. I'd thought it was mature and practical. Now I wondered if it was calculated. "What about Marcus?" Claire continued. "You said he lost his job 6 months ago. When did you start feeling sick?" "About 5 months ago," I whispered. "Right after they moved into the guest house." "And Jennifer? What do you know about her?" "She works in pharmaceutical sales." Or she did. She's been between jobs lately. The words came out slowly as realization dawned. Pharmaceutical sales. Access to medications. Knowledge about drugs and their effects. "We need proof," Claire said firmly. "And we need it before whoever's doing this realizes you're onto them." Over the next week, I became a detective in my own home. I stopped taking my medication entirely, telling Robert and anyone who asked that I was feeling so much better that Dr. Patterson had told me to take a break. It was a flimsy lie, but Robert seemed to accept it, even seemed pleased. I started preparing all my own food, claiming that cooking was therapeutic and helped with my anxiety. I noticed that Robert seemed mildly annoyed by this new independence, but he didn't push back. Jennifer offered several times to make me smoothies or health drinks, mentioning her expertise in nutrition supplements from her pharmaceutical background. I declined every time, watching the flash of frustration cross her face, and I started to feel better. Within 3 days, the constant nausea faded. By the end of the week, I had more energy than I'd had in months. The dizziness stopped. I could climb stairs without my heart racing. Dr. Patterson confirmed it when I went back for follow-up blood work. "Your levels are normalizing," she said, relief evident in her voice. "Whatever was affecting you, it's clearing your system. Have you figured out the source?" "I have a suspicion," I told her. "But I need to be sure." Claire helped me order small surveillance cameras online, the kind marketed for home security that were small enough to hide in everyday objects. We installed one in my bathroom medicine cabinet, angled to capture anyone who opened it. Another went in the kitchen, hidden in a decorative plant on top of the refrigerator with a clear view of the counter where I kept my morning coffee routine. Then we waited. For 3 days, nothing happened. My medication bottle sat untouched in the cabinet. Nobody did anything suspicious in the kitchen. I started to wonder if I'd scared them off, if my sudden recovery had made them back off their plan. Then, on the 4th day, I deliberately took my medication in front of Robert at breakfast, making a show of swallowing the pill with my coffee. "Dr. Patterson wants me back on it," I announced. "She said the break was good, but I need to stay consistent with treatment." That night, while Robert and I watched television in the living room, I saw Jennifer slip upstairs. My heart started pounding. The camera in the bathroom was motion activated. If she went in there, if she touched my medication, I'd have proof. 20 minutes later, she came back down, smiling and relaxed, asking if anyone wanted popcorn. I forced myself to smile back, to act normal, while my mind raced. I waited until everyone went to bed before checking the camera footage on my phone. Claire had shown me how to access it remotely, how to save and share files. My hands shook as I pulled up the bathroom camera. There she was. Jennifer, wearing latex gloves pulled from her pocket, opening my medicine cabinet with the practiced ease of someone who'd done this many times before. She took out my blood pressure medication, unscrewed the cap, and carefully used a pill splitter to cut several white tablets in half. Then she mixed them in with my medication, shaking the bottle to distribute them evenly. The whole process took less than 2 minutes. She was careful, methodical, completely calm. This wasn't a crime of passion or a sudden desperate act. This was premeditated murder, executed with the cold efficiency of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. I watched the footage 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Then I sent it to Claire with a message. "We need to call the police. Now." Claire arrived within 30 minutes, and we sat in my car in the driveway, parked down the street where nobody in the house could see us, making the call to the Santa Barbara Police Department. I explained everything to the detective who answered, sent him the video footage, gave him copies of my medical records from Dr. Patterson, showing the digitalis toxicity. "Ma'am, I need you to not confront anyone in the house," he said firmly. "Don't let them know you're aware. Can you safely leave the premises?" "I'm already outside," I assured him, "and I'm not going back in alone." They arrived an hour later, 3 patrol cars pulling up quietly in the dark. The detective, a middle-aged man named Reeves, knocked on the door while officers positioned themselves around the property. I stayed in Claire's car, watching through the windshield as Robert answered, confusion evident on his face even from a distance. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I saw Robert step back, letting them in. Lights went on in the guest house. Marcus and Jennifer emerged, Jennifer in her bathrobe, Marcus looking panicked. Detective Reeves called me then. "Mrs. Walsh, I need you to come inside and bring that pill bottle from your bathroom. We need to test it." The next 2 hours were a blur. Police photographed the medicine cabinet, bagged the pill bottle as evidence, took statements from everyone. Robert was genuinely shocked. I could see it in his face when they explained what the cameras had captured. Marcus looked sick, kept saying, "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know," over and over. Jennifer said nothing. She sat on my couch, the couch I'd paid for, in the home I'd inherited from my first husband, and stared at the wall with cold, empty eyes. "Why?" I finally asked her, unable to stop myself even as Detective Reeves tried to redirect me. "Why would you do this to me? I gave you a place to live. I tried to help you and Marcus." She looked at me then, and what I saw in her face made my blood run cold. Not anger, not guilt, not even fear, just calculation. Cold, rational assessment. "You were going to die anyway," she said flatly. "You're old, you're sick, or you would have been, eventually. We just needed it to happen sooner rather than later. Marcus deserves that money. He's Robert's son. You're nobody. Just some woman his father married when he was lonely." "Jennifer, shut up," Marcus hissed, but she ignored him. "Do you know how easy it was? How easy it is to kill someone slowly, when you know how? I worked in pharmaceuticals for 10 years. I know every drug interaction, every symptom, every way to make it look like natural causes. Digitalis mimics heart disease. Elevated potassium looks like kidney failure. You would have died within another month, maybe 2, and everyone would have said it was so sad how quickly she went downhill after her checkup. Natural causes, no autopsy, no questions. "But I would have gotten only half," Robert protested, looking at Jennifer with horror. "Even if Dorothy died, the will splits everything between me and her stepchildren. Marcus would have inherited from me eventually, but not immediately. This doesn't even make sense." Jennifer smiled, and it was the coldest thing I'd ever seen. "I convinced Marcus to take out a life insurance policy on you 6 months ago, listing him as beneficiary. $800,000. And you've been looking so tired lately, Robert. So forgetful. So confused. We were going to take care of you next, after Dorothy was gone. Make it look like grief, like dementia, like another elderly person just fading away." The room went silent. Even the police officers looked shocked. "You were going to kill my father too?" Marcus's voice cracked. "Jennifer, what the hell?" "Oh, grow up, Marcus," she snapped. "You've been whining about money for 2 years. About how your dad chose her over you when he remarried. About how unfair it is that some stranger gets half of everything. I solved your problem. You're just too weak to appreciate it." Detective Reeves stepped forward then, reading Jennifer her rights. She didn't resist as they handcuffed her, didn't show any emotion at all as they led her out to the patrol car. Marcus was crying, apologizing to Robert over and over, swearing he hadn't known about any plan to hurt his father. I believed him. Marcus was weak, self-pitying, resentful, but he wasn't a murderer. Jennifer was. They arrested Marcus too, though Detective Reeves told me later it was more for questioning than charges. They'd need to investigate his involvement, determine if he'd known about the poisoning or if Jennifer had acted alone. The life insurance policy in Robert's name was enough to hold him on conspiracy charges while they built their case. After they left, after the police cars pulled away and the crime scene tape came down, Robert and I sat in the living room, 2 elderly people who'd thought they were building a life together, now surrounded by the wreckage of someone else's greed. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "Dorothy, I'm so sorry. I never knew. I never suspected. My own son. Marcus didn't do it," I said quietly. "Jennifer did, and she was going to kill you too. Remember that. She fooled both of us." The criminal case moved faster than I expected. Jennifer's smug confession in my living room, caught on body camera footage, made the prosecutor's job easy. The pill bottle from my bathroom tested positive for digoxin tablets mixed in with my prescribed medication. My medical records showed clear digitalis toxicity that disappeared once I stopped taking the tampered pills. The surveillance footage showed Jennifer accessing my medication with gloves and pill splitters. Her defense attorney tried to argue that she'd been trying to help, that she'd been adding supplements she thought would benefit me, but it fell apart under scrutiny. The prosecutor brought in pharmaceutical experts who testified that Jennifer's training would have made her fully aware of the dangerous interactions she was creating. They found internet search histories on her laptop about lethal doses, about arsenic, about other poisons she'd researched. She'd been planning this for almost a year, since before Marcus even lost his job. That had been stage 2, it turned out. Marcus had quit, believing Jennifer's promises that they'd be rich soon, that his father's new wife wouldn't be a problem much longer. The jury took less than 4 hours to convict Jennifer on charges of attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder. The judge sentenced her to 25 years to life, citing the premeditated nature of the crime, the breach of trust, and her complete lack of remorse. Marcus took a plea deal, 5 years for conspiracy and insurance fraud, with credit for time served. His lawyer argued that he'd been manipulated by Jennifer, that he was a victim of her schemes too. Maybe that was true. Maybe he really was just weak and desperate rather than evil. Either way, he's someone else's problem now. Robert and I divorced quietly 6 months later. Not because I blamed him for his son's actions, but because the foundation of trust was broken. Every time he offered to make me coffee or handed me a glass of water, I flinched. Every time he came home late or acted distracted, I wondered what he was planning. It wasn't fair to him, and it wasn't fair to me. We both deserved better than a marriage built on suspicion and trauma. He moved back to Northern California, closer to his daughter from his first marriage. We talk occasionally, birthday cards and holiday emails. There's no animosity, just sadness for what might have been if Jennifer hadn't poisoned more than just my body. She'd poisoned any chance Robert and I had at happiness together. I updated my will again, leaving everything to Thomas's children and to several charities. I installed a complete security system in my home. I don't date. I don't invite strangers into my space. Claire comes by every day to check on me, and I've reconnected with old friends from my marriage to Thomas, people who knew me before any of this happened. My health recovered completely. Dr. Patterson still monitors me regularly, but all my levels are normal now. The kidney damage reversed once the digitalis exposure stopped. My hair grew back. I have energy again. I've started hiking again, playing tennis, even took a solo trip to Italy last spring, something I'd always wanted to do. I'm 70 now, and I plan to be here for a very long time. Every birthday cake, every hike up a mountain trail, every sunrise over the ocean is a victory, not just over Jennifer and her plans, but over the fear she tried to instill in me. She wanted me to die quietly, to fade away so she could take what I'd built with Thomas over 43 years of marriage. She saw an old woman living alone with her new husband, an easy target, someone whose death wouldn't raise questions. She was wrong. I'm not easy. I'm not fragile. And I'm not going anywhere. Sometimes I think about that moment in Dr. Patterson's office when she asked if I felt safe at home. It's a question I'd encourage anyone, especially elderly people living with family or new spouses, to really consider. Don't dismiss your instincts. Don't ignore symptoms that seem wrong. Don't be afraid to question people you trust if things don't add up. Jennifer is eligible for parole in 2045. She'll be 70 years old when she gets out, roughly the age I am now. I'll be 95 if I'm still here, and I plan to be. I plan to live long enough to make sure she knows that everything she tried to take from me, I'm still here enjoying, every single day. That's the best revenge I could ask for. Not her suffering in prison, though I admit there's some satisfaction in that, but my survival, my thriving, my refusal to be the victim she tried to make me. I'm Dorothy Walsh. I'm a widow, a homeowner, a friend, a traveler, a fighter, and I'm still here.